Shuriken no Shana, or as I'll be referring to it as just Shana, is a light novel, going from 2002 to 2012. Wait. Damn, that's long. Jesus, I feel old. 2002? Man, I was in diapers. Anyways, the anime started in 2005 and has 3 seasons. I am going in depth with the first season, but if you enjoy my content and you do want me to, watch the second and third season, please let me know. Oh, if anything. The story begins with Yuji, an ordinary student that is going into the next level of schooling, where basically he goes and hangs out with his friends and hangs out with this girl, where basically they just hang out and has a crush on his closest friend. But what happens is that a big event that occurs, that everything stops in time. Except Yuji. He sees these 2 creatures that are attacking people's souls and taking them. As he is startled, he sees a girl with flaming hair. As she defeats these creatures, she basically tells Yuji how this works. Long story short, the world that Yuji lives in is the fighting grounds with the Crimson Denizens. These creatures pretty much eats people's souls, and as she is a flame haze, their jobs is to wipe them out and restore the balance to things. So basically, with people's souls consumed, they're given torches, and these torches will pretty much keep them alive, but only for a short amount of time until they're just forgotten about in total. And Yuji finds out that he's been killed before, and he kind of has this existential crisis that occurs, or is fighting that, with copium of he's alive or not, pretty much. Well, he does learn that he actually does want to figure more of this out and wants to help the Flame Denizen. Learning this, Yuji kind of just wants to help the Flame Denizen and figure this stuff out more and more. If anything, I would have to say this is more of a description of how someone is, especially in these situations. It's just like getting a terrible news about something that happened that you had nothing a part of, and you just want to figure out what's going on with it. But basically, we learn the rules as we go too. There's systems in place of, rules and, unruly these systems, but we'll see them going on. But for now, we know that torches are a thing of people that had their souls taken and to keep them alive and not cause anything bad to happen. Okay, you got that? Basically, this is just how the whole system works. But if anything, episodes now going from 2 and beyond is usually more, or besides the fighting that usually occurs, is more, or kind of the humanization of the flame haze. Basically, if anything, I would have to describe, I've heard, is more like a stray cat in this way. Code, but once you get used to them, they get used to you, she actually becomes a very interesting character in that sense, because it's more of, we're understanding like the humanization of her in that way, but that's getting a long way into the story. But basically, how I'll say it is this: you'll definitely see this development, because right now she just treats Yuji as more of a, oh yeah, I saved you, good. But that includes her necklace, Alistair. Alistair is pretty much the middleman for her and Yuji in this sense, because it's more to understand each other, where, or out of anything, she's more just learning more and more about the human world in that way and what they usually do, but also, to help Yuji understand where she's coming from in that sense, or basically kind of just standing her grounds and more of that. In other ways, we can see that with the cast. Yuji's mother, she actually does a lot for her in the sense of kind of being that feminine mode that she kind of needs in this world to understand and how humans function. You have Kazumi. She's has a crush on Yuji, but she's too shy to admit it in the early parts, but she does gain confidence. She actually does play a bigger part of the story. Just wait. Haito is Yuji's best friend in this scenario, and kind of pushes her to express his feelings about Yuji. And on the other side, we of the denizens. There's Marjorie. She's a denizen, and drunk but capable. Basically, if I had to say like this, she's pretty much the fan service of the characters. Big chested and all. It's not a bad thing, but it's just she has big chest. And we also have her lackeys. They're not really lackeys. They're just, people that follow because they want to get training. And that's Iruka and Kineshu. They're basically fell into this, and they're just gonna keep going, especially Ida, because he wants big sister priorities, if you know what I mean. There are also villains in this story, and if anything, they're more or less, they just wanna take the city for what it is and harvest the souls. And if anything, there are creepy ones with dolls. There's one that is a blue blood, and then you have another one that is more just wanting to protect the pure. Those are your three of the season. Take it as what you want. But the second set of villains, what I like to dub the blue bloods, is basically the first time that we see the bigger picture with these characters. But besides them, one escapes, and that's the one that actually becomes a bigger part of the story. I guess how I would describe Yuji's and Shana's relationship is more of trying to get someone out of their shell, but the person that is willing, but they want to go on their own pace. And we can see that affect them, because more times that Shana kind of grows an attachment towards Yuji, and even with her powers, we actually do see that her powers are affected by Yuji's relationship with her. She gains more speed, she gets more powerful. Well, it's more, or we kind of see, the early parts that, it might be a thing. Besides that, I think episodes 9 through 14 is a good multi-part to talk about Shana's insecurities and more of understanding of the world to have her digest. Shana feels self-conscious about her own body and how Kazumi got an attention for the boys when they were showing their outfit. But pretty much the jealousy kind of gets ramped up with how everything is more played out. It's more, she kind of just doesn't get that much attention in that sake, but she does, put in the effort, to kind of show her that she has value. Oh, and it's the jealousy part that kind of gets her over in the challenge, where pretty much the whole challenge is just, take the headband off the person's head while the other one is trying to balance them in the water. But basically what happens is that in comedic fashion, she slips, and the one person that has the most ropes, bands, or whatever wins, and it wasn't even one of them. And I think if anything, what we actually do see is their conflict with Kazumi and Shana, where pretty much we kind of see how both of them feel about the relationship, where Kazumi is more shy and wants to, spend time and express it. Shana just kind of just says, this is mine, in that sense. But what happens is that Shana doesn't even know how to describe it before, or time stops, and they have to face the twins. Before we actually get further on in the story, I just want to make a little side tangent about art around this time. This was made in 2005, aka it was developed up for a few years, but it debuted in 2005. But this is one piece I actually wanted to talk about. So during the transition between cell to digital around the 90s and 2000s, studios in Japan and the United States, and anywhere that actually makes stuff, actually had to go through a reprocessing of color theory. Because basically how cell worked, cell had more dynamic coloring because you had to have more bold colors so it could be captured well. And basically, since cells had to take photos, things felt more rich and colorful, while the starting transitions of it being digital in the late 90s and early 2000s, it was more or less the mix of it, where they were still trying to keep the boldness of cell, but yet couldn't really figure it out of how we have modern stuff now, where it's more kind of just blended everything together. But pretty much how I would kind of describe it is, if you look at the towns and whatnot, you can totally see the era that it's from, aka to the mid 2000s, aka the everything's blurry, but yet everything looks so nice. I think, if anything, how I would describe it is, yeah, the tints and highlights with the contrasting of the 90s. The 2000s is the expressive of colors and details with blurriness, and the 2010s ironing out the process of the 2000s to make it more of what it is now. While I feel like, heading into the 2020s, it's more gone into a mix of going back in the 90s, contrasting designs, but still keeping the realism being a part of it. Okay. Out of that side tangent, I just wanted to talk about that part about just, from its era. But pretty much what happens now is, we see Shana's backstory of pretty much of how she is. The gist is that she's training to become a flame netizen, and she's pretty much just going through the process of training and getting better and better. And what happens in one of her trainings and tricking the skeleton, pretty much the palace gets destroyed, right? And right before she is going to get attacked, Wilhelm comes in and saves her. While basically what happens is the Crimson Slayer comes in and helps them by taking them out. And the biggest thing that does happen is that the Crimson Slayer helps her to reach the goal to find Alistair, and pretty much after that, she learns what happens to the last flame denizen, where basically what happens is she died because of Alistair's ability, where Alistair comes out, but the biggest issue is that person will die in the process of that attack that ever has to be performed. So now that she understands that, she pretty much agrees to the contract with Alistair and becomes one with Alistair. Alistair is pretty much the necklace, and as they become one as a team, they take on the person that took them there, the Crimson Slayer. So what happens is, we also learn where's the origin of it, where basically the origins is man, the body, the sword, and the suit is basically in one as a Slayer in general. But basically this whole fight is more of a training, not like in any other ways, just as more, do you have the guts to do it? And if you do, here's the sword, which she does. And then she also faces the skeleton from before, that's actually in its human form. If anything, if I had to describe this, it's more of, we're seeing how Shana trains Ains in that sense, because we're hearing the same things that she said to Yuji earlier in the story. But long and short, or if I had to give you like the easiest way to describe it, it's more like how Grandpa Gohan had a little scrimmage with Goku back in Dragon Ball, where basically it wasn't taken serious, but it was more to just see the mental check of Goku, to kind of just see how far he's gone, and if Goku can fend for himself in that way. Okay. After those episodes, the structure of the show kind of stays the same, but includes more significant challenges for it, and that turns into a new character, or that learns Shida and an item that looks at torches. So basically what happens now is, after those two big conflicts, it's going to be brewing to a bigger picture. Now, we understand that, with these two Crimsons, that they kind of just, the cities need to be fixed, but they need to just figure it out. After those episodes, the structure of the show stays the same, but yet just brings more of an intense piece. We're heading into the third act now, that we need to just have the stakes get higher. We also figured out that the city is not in tune. We're basically, we're as untuned it is, more and more people are going to come in and try to take what is happening there. We see one character that gives Kazumi a monocle to pretty much look at torches, and she finds that Yuji is one. But the biggest thing that does happen is that the flame, it pretty much recharges his soul every time. Which, that's actually really cool, by the way. But if anything that we actually do see is that since everything is getting unstable, we actually see someone in the past. But before I get to that, we have to talk about the festival. The festival is kind of a really sad part. Where basically what happens is that Yuji agrees to go, and that happens, but Shana thought that he was going to take her. And the biggest thing that is like really sad that I noticed is this, that as she actually goes into the festival by herself and finds Yuji hanging out with Yuzumi. So basically what happens is she discovers, and when I say she, I'm not saying Shana, that he's actually a torch, and she runs away. Basically after that, Shana comes into Yuzumi and pretty much given that "don't never leave me" kind of hug. But the biggest thing that does happen is that we kind of just see how human that she's become. She's become more human than we've seen her before. Or basically she kind of just says don't leave her in that way. But anyway, what happens after that is that as they're getting their plan going, we actually find Wilhelm. Wilhelm is back because it's untuned in this city. But anyways, what does happen is pretty much she just scolds Shana because of what everything's happening.
You a bitch. You know why you a bitch? Because I said so. You just a bitchy bitch.
And how we've gotten here. Where she just more feels like that you've messed up on her duties. But basically, to keep a long story short, she's here for the crisis, and she wants to fix the situation. And that situation is by killing Yuji.
What?
Yeah, so her idea is this: if you kill the Mises is dead, and it's gonna just travel to another person. But the biggest thing that does happen is that Shana kind of confronts her about this, because as I said, yeah, we know that she has a crush on Yuji, but right before anything bad happens, Alistair talks before Shana was gonna go Shana was gonna attack at her, and pretty much let Yuji speaks out what he noticed, where basically he says that at the beach had these weird birds that still had energy, and pretty much just said, let's see what happens there. What I actually think is the biggest effect is kind of how, as human that Shana has gotten, Yuji's kind of gotten dehumanized by himself. Pretty much he just sees himself as a torch in this way, and he kind of figures out, oh, she knows I am a torch, and pretty much just says, I don't want people to get hurt by him, and pretty much just kind of just says as he's just going to move. And once Shana hears about this, she's more conflicted because she wanted the same thing, but the biggest thing was she didn't thought that he would want to do this, and how confident. But after all that of the night, they go to the beach for the bonfire the next day, and it's actually triggered to be a big sneak attack where basically they're going to take Yuji, like it or not, and Wilhelm just decides, yep, go with the original plan, I'm going to kill Yuji. As she brings her sword out and about to strike, Shana takes the blow, Yuji gets captured. Yeah. Where basically we see the villains kind of just, explain their plan to kind of tell the viewers, yeah, this is what we're doing. But we also see Shana kind of just tell Wilhelm of, yeah, I love Yuji. Yuji, I love him. Where now where pretty much she just says, okay, I'm going to let you do what you need to do. But if shit gets real, you know what you're gonna have to do. But we find how they're going to use Yuji as well. And I know I just said that earlier, but pretty much what's gonna happen is this. This is a child that that can store a lot of energy, where pretty much she can absorb people's energy to become more powerful. And since Yuji has the Mises and the ability to regenerate at midnight, pretty much it's going to just drain him through and through as she's just charging up. Where it's just their memories for this, where she just absorbs Yuji's memories to become more and more stronger. Or if anything, I would say, even though that they're fighting in the castle to save Yuji kind of saves himself in this way. Hey, this is post-recording me. I just wanted to say this. I actually fucked up with this part. Yuji does save himself, but basically what I just wanted to clarify is pretty much she destroys where Yuji is, and pretty much all the things that really happen is that he kind of just gives her trauma by being blunt low of the discovering of himself. Because for the whole entire time that I've noticed in this episodes, that he, especially in the early ones, he kind of had to discover that he's still human in that way, to, you know, as not much as a copium anymore, but as a truth, and kind of just says to her that you are nothing because you don't have any memories of yourself. And where he gets out because of Shana, and what happens now is that the kid just pretty much just balls out screaming. Pretty much after learning about that, it just goes into a full-on I'm just gonna kill everything, screw it, just screw it. And now what happens is this: Shana has to make a decision for herself. Does she try to save him? Now, knowing that the effects that does happen, that's not gonna happen. And so she decides to do what the last Flame Haze did and sacrifice herself so the city can be protected. And Alistair comes out, and what happens is pretty much as the light absorbs, or she actually manifests as a piece of Alistair to save her and Yuji. While these two escape, in the end, it kind of reverts back to how it was before, where they're more playful with each other, or in that way. Honestly, if I had to give more of a sense of what I thought of this, I actually enjoyed a lot of it. I would say there was a lot of slow parts, but yet the slow parts weren't so enduring where I just didn't want to say anything about it. I actually did enjoy a lot of it. I enjoyed seeing the relationship build up, and I liked seeing how everything else was affecting it. I think if anything, I don't like giving like those star reviews or whatnot. I'm not Dave Meltzer, but if I had to give like a recommendation to watch it, I would say this: if you're someone that likes to see that kind of stuff happen, where people are just, you know, building up to it and seeing it kind of manifest and feeling happy about it, I totally would recommend that. If you're someone that is actually looking for like an action-packed, I wouldn't say it's action-packed. I would say it's more, it has its action, but it's not about the action. It's about the relationships first. By the way, if you do want me to watch season 2 and 3, please give me a like. Tell me in the comments like you actually would. If you did enjoy this video, I hope you did. If you didn't, well, thanks for watching if you got into this point. I'm Jarfy. You have a good day.